You're watching the Google Pixel 3 XL disassembly teardown video. First thing, we're gonna have to take off the plastic that the phone came with. All brand new. First thing first, take out the SIM tray. Kind of find it awkward that this one's on the bottom. Usually I see them on the top or on the sides, but go ahead and use your SIM popping tool. Pop out the SIM tray. Next, you're going to heat up the back of the phone. You can use a heat gun, or most people which don't have heat guns, you can use a hair dryer or blow dryer. Just heat it up a little bit so it softens the adhesive underneath so you can pry the back off. Okay, after you heat up the back a little bit, you're going to need a pry tool, preferably something plastic so you don't damage the frame of the phone and scratch it up. I usually start with a guitar pick, something thin and plastic that you can try to work your way in. If you're having some trouble, you can always use like a thin razor or something to get into like one of the corners and then slide your pry tool in. Once you got your pry tool in, just work your way around the phone to loosen the adhesive. Sometimes when the adhesive is strong, you can use a plastic card or something else to help you. I'm going to use a Costco card I have. This makes it a little bit easier. So on this one, I found it surprisingly hard to take the back off. The adhesive is very strong, especially on the bottom right corner of the phone. It has some strong adhesive. Once you have the back pretty much pried off, just be careful, don't lift it completely off because there's a cable for the fingerprint reader over here. So the cable's attached over here on the motherboard. You're gonna have to disconnect that cable. I'm going to use a pair of tweezers just to peel off the yellow tape that's on the connector. So be careful not to touch anything metal on the phone because you're using metal against metal. Alright, once you got that tape peeled off, go ahead and pop off the lock over here for the connector. Pop it up. Once the lock is unlocked, slide out that cable. And you can take your back off. Alright, next you got another yellow protective tape over here. Peel that off. Then you're going to use a T4 or T5. I usually like to use one size larger because in my experience it strips the screws less. Go ahead and unscrew these two T4 screws. Remove that metal cover. Next, you got 15 more T4 screws you're going to have to remove. They're going to be throughout the phone. Go ahead and remove those screws. Keep in mind you're going to have two screws hidden over here underneath the adhesive, so pull the adhesive away to get to those screws. Alright, now once you got your screws removed, also keep in mind that the screws vary in sizes. Some are longer than the other ones. So Put them down accordingly so you remember which ones go where. It'll make it easier for you later on when you're reassembling it. Go ahead and take out this metal plate. Held on with some adhesive, very tiny adhesive strips underneath it. Put that aside. Go ahead and remove the top over here. Put that aside. Alright, next there's a cable over here for the bottom speaker assembly. Go ahead and pop off that connector, just pop it up. Once you disconnect that, you're going to work your way. There's some adhesive over here underneath the speaker holding the assembly down. Just pry it off. Put that aside. Remove this cover that's on top of your charger port assembly. It also looks like it has a water damage indicator over here, the sticker, which will probably turn pink or red if it gets in contact with liquid. Alright, go ahead and disconnect your battery cable over here. And then next, disconnect the cable over here for your wireless charging pad. You got two more cables over here. Go ahead and disconnect those two cables. And then you got the screen cable over here. Disconnect that as well. Next, you got two cables over here for the cameras on the top. Disconnect those cables as well. Now you got one more cable over here. Disconnect this one. Now you got 7 more T4 screws you're going to have to remove. 4 are going to be up here, which are on the board mainly. And you got 3 down here that are screwing in the charger port flex cable area to the frame of the phone. Go ahead and remove those screws. Alright, now once you got those screws removed, remove this top cover that goes over the cameras. Put that aside. Next, go ahead and remove these cameras. They have some adhesive on them, so. Now up here in the top left hand corner above the back facing camera, you have one small cable that leads to a microphone on top. Go ahead and disconnect that cable. Next, go ahead and lift up this tape over here off the battery. And then go ahead and lift up the board. Also be careful because these cables over here that are attached to the area where the charger port is are connected to the board underneath it. So you're going to want to lift it up together. You're going to have to slide out the charger port connector from the slot in the frame. Once that's out, get this other part in the corner over here out too. Now here's your board underneath it. I know it's kind of some kind of thermal tape, or I'm assuming that's what it is. Looks like some kind of a thermal tape that touches the frame on the bottom. And then you got the cables that lead to the charger port over here. You have a white and black one, so you just pop those off, and you can replace this whole entire assembly over here. And you got the connector for the front, or for the back-facing camera over here. Disconnect that. So at this point you're left with the battery, the frame, you got your ear speaker over here, you got a microphone over here, and you got your vibrator motor over here. And if you wanted to replace the screen, you just remove the battery by pulling out the pull tabs over here. There's two of them. And then just pry off the battery so you can get access to the cable for the screen over here, which is underneath it. And then you would have to heat up the screen and pry it off from the mid frame. You just use a pry tool, go along the sides, and then put your new screen on. Or it's much easier if you just find a screen that has the mid frame already attached to it. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and reassemble the phone. Alright, go ahead and attach the main camera back to the board. Once your camera's back on, go ahead and put the main board back in. Just make sure none of the cables get stuck underneath it. Put your charger port assembly back in its place. Again, make sure none of your cables get stuck underneath. Alright, next, go ahead and put your screws back on for the bottom area of the charger port. Now put that cover over your charger port. Go ahead and screw it in place. Alright, once that's in place, put the speaker assembly back in. Once that's back in, go ahead and put the screws back in. Alright, next, go ahead and connect all your cables back to the board. This one's the bottom one's for the speaker assembly. Connect your screen cable over here. Your wireless charging cable. And you got your power button and volume up and down cable over here. You got your earpiece cable here. And go ahead and put your front facing cameras back in. Next, connect your microphone cable over here in the corner above the camera. Once that's connected, go ahead and put your cover that covers the cameras over here back over. Alright, go ahead and put the screws back over the cover that goes up over the cameras. Make one screw over here on the silver part and one over here on this other silver part. Alright, next we're going to put this top cover back on, and just to let you know, for anyone who's having any type of reception issue, any Wi-Fi issue, this piece is something I'll take a look at because it has some antenna lines running through it. If you see these tan colored lines, and also there's gold points over here underneath it which make contact to certain areas of the board. So this would be something that I'd be looking into. Now go ahead and put the screws back in. Alright, now once you got those screwed in place, go ahead and connect the battery cable over here to the board. Once your battery is connected, put the metal cover back over all those cables, and then go ahead and screw it back in place. Alright, next put the cover that covers your power button cable back over, and go ahead and screw it in place. Alright, next you're going to take your back cover and connect your fingerprint scanner back to the main board. Once that's in, press the lock down to lock it in. Put your yellow protective sticker back over the connector. And then if you need to, reapply new adhesive. Put your back cover back over. You can apply some heat to make the adhesive attach better. Power on the phone, and you're done.